Okay, 45 points lower. We're recovered a little bit, but still down, 10,788. You're with us here on Mid-Cap Radar. The top story, of course, remains the cross-border tensions, the escalation this morning from the Pakistani side. And, of course, we are covering that from all angles. With me is my colleague, Sumera. Hi, Sumera.
Hi, Prashant. Good afternoon. And, we saw a sharp fall, actually. But now for the goodish bit of, say, about half an hour, 40 minutes, we're just moving in that 20, 30-point range. So it looks like the market is now awaiting further cues and perhaps some sort of clarification or, statement from the government. But till then, we're down about... on the Sensex, we're down at the moment about 100-odd points. The Nifty is down about 45-odd. And the mid-cap index, which at one point was, well in the green, actually, that has moved into the red as well. But let's quickly take a check on what's happening in Europe. The opening there was expected to be a tad bit muted. So the frontline indices down about 0.25%. It's just the DAX, which is up. There's an important Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un meeting that's slated for later in the day. So that's where the investor focus remains. But first up, our top stories. The market slips sharply on news of increased skirmishes along the Indo-Pak border. Key indices down 0.5%. Mid-cap index now in the red.
Border tensions remain heightened. A Pakistani spokesperson admits an airstrike on non-military targets across the line of control, adds that they do not intend to escalate action. Rajnath Singh holds high-level meet at the North Block with the NSA, the RAW Chief, Foreign Secretary and the Home Secretary.
In stock-specific action, Allahabad Bank, Corporation Bank and Dhanlaxmi exit the Reserve Bank's prompt corrective action list. Allahabad Bank says they have targeted recovery and upgradation of 2,000 crores in Q4. Dhanlaxmi said they will look to improve their low-cost deposit share.
Cement stocks trend higher post a sharp price increase, particularly in South and West India this month. J.K. Lakshmi expects cement utilization, capacity utilization to improve, aiding in price increases ahead.
Wipro's under pressure after Credit Suisse downgrades the stock on uncertain global macros. Max India too takes it on the chin after the company sells 15% stake in Max Bupa.
Okay, Ashwini is with us to take us through what he's making of things. We are down 39 now, so it's a sharp recovery from the lows. But, I mean, we've been yo-yoing for the last several hours now. Ashwini, your reading on the screen?
This appears more like a Facebook-Twitter war. So that way I have added positions as we fell to 10,750. Next couple of hours you could have a fairly strong short covering because everybody is on the same side. And as time goes by, the stress, tension, etc. would come off. And since we are not getting more follow-through, hardly 40-50 points down in a war that people are expecting to escalate, I think being on the right side, which is the long side, is the best. You'll soon start hearing from global leaders, etc. And if not today, by tomorrow we should be back at 10,900, 920 because the short covering will be very, very brisk. So I'm on the long side, and individual stocks you can, probably avoid for a bit because the move's only 4 to 5% on either side, but the market is cornered, and the moment de-escalation kind of starts and a few phone calls, I think you will have fairly strong short covering.
Fairly strong short covering. So what kind of things have you added? Where have you added longs? Well,
I added 37,000 at 10,800. Then we fell on this Arun Jaitley statement. I added even more. Because, this sort of war hysteria, this is not the way wars are fought. Wars are fought economically. This sort of conventional war is for, domestic constituency consumption. So we are, at least the market players are naive. These genders that are coming, they are being more practical. You need money to fight wars. I think some sort of hysterical coverage is happening.
Ashwini, Bharat Forge is seeing some solid price action, has seen from 460 levels, it's at 510, 512. Any thoughts here?
See, I would think it has possibly bottomed out. and it's been coming off from, I think, 1,900. 1,900. So that way, I think it's bottoming out. Possibly, defense could have something to do with that. So, everywhere where there is quality like Reliance, HUL, Bharat Forge, this is a time to accumulate, because once the rally really picks up, it will be difficult to get hold of these stocks. So people who want to build up portfolios, I think possibly good time to do that. See, nobody knows what will happen. And if the worst is coming, having or not having stocks will not help you. But I think the risk reward is basically very, very favorable to make these sort of bets.
All right, Ashwini, thanks very much for joining in with your thoughts. Anant Narayan, who's a money market expert, joins in now. Hi, Anant. Good afternoon to you. We've seen sharp moves, on the currency, also in the bond market. And, these are markets that normally have a much more measured response. Is there a lot of fear? And do you expect, incremental moves to also be sharpish?
Afternoon, Sumera. Look, always difficult to trade around events. We'd much rather trade around boring things like current account deficits and government borrowing programs and fiscal deficit and stuff like that. Events always mess up things as far as markets are concerned. Frankly, this is probably a time for people to just stay off, let the whole thing settle down, and operate under the rational argument that things will settle down. Nobody wants an escalation here. And I think, you've just got to let all the noise get away and then get back to boring trading again. And I'm also encouraged by what I see as the official statements coming from both sides. Yesterday's Ministry of External Affairs statement I thought was very, very factual and non-provocative. I'd like to think that the official statement, at least from Pakistan today as well, is along the same lines. Nobody seems to want an escalation. After all this noise and everybody scored their political points, hopefully we get down to normal business again. Until such time, unfortunately, we will see volatility. We will see panic reactions. Best to stay away from the market.
Right. Anand, are we already at that point where things, according to you, that things should start to settle down, or this could last for a few days?
We don't know what we don't know, Prashant. We don't know what the responses will be on both sides. All this news about assets being lost and stuff like that don't help. I wish some clarity would emerge, and until that clarity emerges, we don't really know. I think we have to operate with the assumption that if not today, in the next couple of days or in a few days, we will come back to normal. Nobody wants a spiraling escalation of the current situation, and we'll get back to normal. Now, I think what we have to then debate is what will be the more lasting impact of what we've gone through in terms of our overall macros. And I think it will be fair to say that some amount of nervousness around geopolitics will now have to be factored into bond markets and into currency markets. Again, it will ebb over time, but for a while at least you might see foreign portfolio investors thinking a bit more about investing into the region. But that's going to be more medium term, really. For now, we just have to wait for this noise to subside and then get back to dealing on fundamentals. On fundamentals, look, rupee is still going to be slightly volatile until we know how the elections pan out. We will be looking for clarity on that. Plus, we do have a problem of a core current account deficit. Likewise, on the bond side, we have a core problem of a large fiscal deficit and a large government borrowing program, which will continue to progress.
Anant, the rupee today went to about 71.40. We're now at 71.26. Have you heard of any sort of, Reserve Bank intervention? I mean, this is pretty uncharted territory. What's the norm in times like this?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the RBI is watching the markets extremely closely and actually stepping in to bring in some sanity as well. That's exactly what we have $398 billion of reserves for times like this, when people start to overreact to stuff that we don't know about. That's the time RBI has to come in and bring some sense into the market. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if RBI does that and maybe even in the bond markets. They do operate on the screen on bonds as well. So they could at some stage decide to do that as well. And frankly, more power to them for that. In times like this is exactly what a good regulator should be doing.
Anant, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining in and running us through what you're making of the situation. We're down 20 now, under 20 points. So there is definitely a big pickup which has happened from the day's low. But as I said, it's volatile. The low today was made at 10,751. So we're about, what, 60, 70 points off the lows. But the high was 10,940. So we're about 120 points still off the highs. So this is, I mean, essentially, somewhere in the middle, but more down than up still at this point. Look at the mid-cap and small-cap indices, 0.5% of the small-cap, slow sort of recovery there as well. The mid-cap index and small-cap index also picking up. The Bank Nifty has also picked up. The low was 26,719. And we're at 26,834. So, yeah, I mean, a little over 100 odd points off the lows on the Nifty Bank as well, but still down about 0.4%. So things, I think, maybe just about starting to settle down. Would it get big time volatile again? Possible, but looks like starting to settle down a little bit. We take our first break here on the show. We come back, we get you more on the other side, and of course the focus remains on that big story.